Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we are going to be making what's on my shirt. We're going to be making the macaroni au gratin, whatever you want to, however you want to say it, from the Poole's Diner Cookbook by Ashley Christensen. This is one of the things that she almost always, I don't think I've ever not seen it at the restaurant. She almost always has it at the restaurant. It's beautiful 2-page spread. It comes to your table in a dish like this with super brown cheese on top. It is really my favorite mac and cheese. I'm not a huge mac and cheese person. I'll eat it, it's fine, but I love this mac and cheese. Of course, my kids, not super fans, but whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and make this. It's really simple, honestly. You don't have to make a bechamel. There's no flour. It is the ingredients here. I have some macaroni that I've already weighed out. I have some white cheddar. I have a sharp white cheddar. I have some Jarlsberg cheese, which is kind of a Swiss-like, I think. It's got holes in it. And I've got some Grana Padano, not exactly, this is American Grana, which is basically a, now look, I watched a video of Ashley Christensen making this earlier today, just to be sure I knew what I was getting myself into, see how long it was gonna take. It shouldn't take that long. She said it was a young Parmesan. This says it is extra aged Parmesan, whatever. It's like a Parmesan cheese. If you can't find this, she says Parmesan is fine. You can probably use different cheeses, whatever. But these ingredients, some sea salt and cream, and that's it. That's all that is in this dish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to weigh out the cheeses and shred them with this. They do get all mixed together, so you don't have to keep them separate or anything. So I'm just gonna weigh them and shred them together and then mix them all up together. And then we're gonna go cook our pasta, and then we're gonna sort of put it all together. So right now I'm just going to be measuring and shredding my cheese using the food processor. She says they did it on a box grater before, the very beginning of the restaurant, but they moved to using a food processor, and I decided that that was a good idea. So get all my cheese grated and I'll see you at the stove. So I'm gonna prepare for later by just sort of mixing this up together. I don't know which cheese is which since they're all white, just kind of mixing this up with my hands. And then we need to separate this. Sort of 40% goes into the sauce and the rest goes on top. So it's a lot of cheese in that lovely crust. So I'm just gonna put what seems like about 40%, and that should be, I mean, I have the measurements, so I know what it should be. I gave a little bit of extra cheese total. So this is what's gonna go in our sauce, and we're gonna keep this to put on top before we put it under the broiler at the end. I do wanna say, this is one of those recipes that I have made previously, probably more than once, because I do love it so much. And we have had this at the restaurant before, so I do know what this is supposed to taste like and what it, you know, how she serves it and everything like that. So yeah, meet us back at the stove. So she has a specific amount of water and a specific amount of kosher salt. So I used this stuff because it's the stuff that I don't care so much about for water, whatever. I have Diamond Crystal that I use for kosher salt when I care, because the saltiness, the density basically of the salt differs between these two. So anyway, I have a specific amount of salt, a specific amount of water in this saucepan, bringing it to a boil. It was almost to a boil before. I just turned it down so it didn't go all over the place. It's a little small, but I think we'll be okay. So as soon as this boils, we're gonna put the macaroni in here. I didn't buy any special macaroni. It's like the store brand, regular elbow macaroni. But you only want to cook this to al dente because it is going to cook more in the sauce and then in the oven. So you don't want it to be mushy at the end. So she says they cook it for 5 minutes. I'll check it at 5 minutes. That seems like it'll be pretty al dente to me. A little too, but we'll see. I might just follow the directions entirely correctly this time and see how it goes. This is boiling now. In fact, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. It's a good boil. I'm gonna go ahead and drop in my macaroni. And I'm gonna stir it a little bit. I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes. Okay. We'll check it at 5 minutes. All right, this has been 5 minutes, so it just still looks like dry pasta to me. I'm gonna give it a couple more. It is way too al dente. That is not al dente, that is raw. So I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes, check it again. I think it's been another 6 minutes, so about 11 minutes, and it's definitely al dente, almost done like I like. So I'm gonna go strain this and be right back. Okay, so now we're going to put this out on a baking sheet to come to room temperature, but we're also going to put a little bit of just neutral vegetable oil on it to keep it from sticking to itself. So I'm going to measure it as per the recipe. And then I'm going to stir it around with my spoon just to get it coated. And then we let this come to room temperature. So we're just going to leave this on the baking sheet on the counter, and it should come to room temperature relatively quickly. So the next step, this is exactly the kind of pan that she used in the video segment I saw. She has a large deep saucepan. I have the salt that I've measured out, sea salt, and then the cream for the recipe. I just didn't want to dirty another measuring spoon because after I used oil, I couldn't put salt in it reliably. So I measured the salt out first. Anyway, so I've got cream here with the salt, and we're going to bring this to a boil. All right, so it's boiling, and we're going to sort of let it come back to a simmer. Said it would foam up and then come to a simmer, which is fine. And we're going to simmer it for like 2 minutes. So now it's been simmering for about 2 minutes, and call in. I'm gonna put all of the noodles in here now. So now we're going to stir these into the cream and let it cook for about 90 seconds, just to let the cream thicken up a little bit more and warm up the noodles. Okay, so now we slowly add the 40% of the cheese that we had separated from the rest and stir it in so it melts. Sort of a small handful at a time, she says. So that is it for this part. She says to use a 2.5 quart saucepan, like wide pan, kind of like this, or baking dish. She usually puts it in a relatively small baking dish, probably half of this at a time. At the restaurant, but this makes, like I said, this makes enough for, I think, 4 to 6 people. I forget what it says, but anyway, so it makes quite a bit in my opinion, especially since my kids won't eat it. So I've got this. It's a little bit bigger than she calls for, but this is done now. And I'm going, well, done for this step. So I'm going to pour it into this dish. She does not say to butter it or anything, but just pour it in. I probably could have done my smaller one, but that was not quite 2.5 quarts. So I just didn't want it to be too overflowing. It does come kind of overflowing at the restaurant though, so. Oops. So there we go. And now we put the rest of this cheese on top. All of it mounded up, just cover the whole thing. And at this point, we've got something else in our oven, but we're going to get that out and turn the broiler on because the last step is to broil this cheese on top until it is crispy and delicious. So, be right back for that. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make the macaroni au gratin from the Poole Steiner cookbook. Now, we had 4 kids, so 2 extras with us for that meal, and 3 of them did not love it. My daughter actually ate it and liked everything except for the browned top, which, by the way, I didn't show you that part. We will put in the pictures, probably already have, of what it looks like after you broil it. Basically, I showed you, with all the cheese on top, you put it in the broiler and broil it until you think it's done, until it's very brown, and then that's it. So that was one step we did not show you because there's not much you can show in the broiler. Anyway, so she didn't like that part. But she liked everything else. The rest of the kids did not super enjoy this mac and cheese. So in my opinion, it's kind of an adult mac and cheese. All the adults loved it. It is very rich and hard to eat a lot of, but it is delicious. So we have recently actually ordered the mac and cheese from Poole Steiner for pickup for a Sunday brunch. And my husband said this was better than the pickup version. And I'm sure it was, this is a dish that is best eaten hot on the first day that you make it. It does not, and I want to emphasize this, it does not reheat well because there's no stabilizers. It is a cream base. It just does not reheat well. It separates and it still tastes okay, but it's not the same the second time around. So if you don't have a lot of people eating it, you might want to just sort of do a half recipe because, like I said, it's very rich. But all that said, it is pretty much exactly like you get it from the restaurant. It is delicious. It is creamy. For me, the browned cheese bits on the top are the best part. And this is the easiest recipe, I think. The easiest actual finished product recipe in this book is probably this one because, it's mac and cheese, but you don't even have to make a bechamel. You make the sauce with the cream and just add some cheese, and then you put more cheese on top and broil it. It's super easy. Anybody can do this. And I didn't even get like the best types of cheese, the best brands or whatever. I didn't go to Whole Foods or anything. I just was able to get these things at my local stores, and it was still absolutely delicious. So this is something you should make at home. If you've been to Poole Steiner and you can't go right now, or you can't get things from there right now, make this recipe. And if you haven't been, but you like mac and cheese and you love a cheesy brown top, make this recipe. Anybody can do it. So if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week. If you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and come back to watch me.
So if you